Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So yesterday, after the Banquet event announcement, Kabam also dropped Battlegrounds Season 4 changelog. So that is exactly what we are going to be taking a look, what is changing in Battlegrounds Season 4, and what are going to be the nodes and the metas. So the first thing is that it is pushed back slightly. It is pushed back to January 4th. So instead of 1 week off season, we will have 16 days of off season, and the new season is going to start in the new year, pretty much the same time as like the new Alliance War season starts. And take it for what you will. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy about it, but at the same time, with Alliance War season being delayed, with everything else not happening, and I understand that there are holidays, and obviously there will be times and dates, when we can't play, but at the same time, I do think it kind of risks making the game feel a bit, hollow and empty again, and it's always, so far when off-season comes, the game immediately becomes a lot more boring. But hopefully this time around we will have plenty to do with our limited time. So again, I'm not gonna tout this as a major success, because unlike Alliance War, Battlegrounds, you can play as and when you want, and it doesn't require like major planning from officers and things like that. So it's just one of those things. It's like we don't remove arenas, for instance, because for similar reasons. If you want to play arenas, you can play arenas. It's not like it's a mandatory thing to do at all times, always, and grind it. And then, we still would have had like 3 weeks in the New Year's. But again, either way, whether you like it or you don't, fact of the matter is that the new season is going to start at the January 4th and will last until February the 1st. And we are going to have a 16-day off season. So Alliance event update here is, it's fairly simplified version. Basically, they are getting rid of all of the extra little points that you can get by tags that nobody really followed anyways, because whether you add a champion with a specific tag in your deck was never a factor. You always wanted to make your deck the best you could, and you never really looked at those tags for some few extra points. At least I didn't, or I don't know anybody who did, so I'm glad that they are gone. There is a slight annoyance. It's not a major deal with the math behind all of this, because previously, basically, Elder's Mark used to be times 6 points. Now they are times 6.1 or something like that. So there is even a slightly bit bigger difference whether you are using energy or you are using Elder's Marks. But ultimately, I do feel that this is overall better, where, all of that other extra stuff just didn't seem necessary. I just wish that they rounded the numbers slightly differently. But here we are again. So, basically, now it doesn't matter what champions you use. Previously, there were those hashtag, I don't know, offensive burst champion, get extra 20 points or something. Now, all of that is incorporated, and you just have your base using energy points and using Elder's Marks points, and that's it. Now, the difference in between Elder's Marks and energy is 6.1 for a win. And then we're going to take a look at Season 4 meta, and this is going to be quite a controversial, I think, quite a controversial meta, because I do feel that this is about as restrictive victory track meta that we have had. And I hope that some of the numbers here are slightly wrong. But let's get to it. So each time the defender is struck while under effect of an armor buff, they will power burn the attacker for 10% of bar power. Power burn damage scales with armor up buff as well as defender's base attack. So basically it's all going to be about armor up champions the entire month, and also obviously champions that can get rid of armor ups. Additionally, when struck, the defender gains a shit-in charge. At 10 shit-in charge. At 10, all charges are removed, and the defender gains armor buff, increasing armor by 50%, lasting 30 seconds. Now, that 30-second mark is also a very, very, very long time, where basically, because it is a 30-second armor up, not, let's say, like 5 or 8 or 10-second armor up, you will have to, have answers to this, because you can't wait out 30 seconds in a 2-minute match. So this is definitely going to be about as restrictive as a victory meta has been so far. So I do suspect that there will be a lot of people unhappy with it, because if you are a Thronebreaker player or a lower Paragon player, or basically anybody who doesn't have like a jacked account, you will struggle to, first of all, build a deck that, you know, functions moderately well, and second of all, there's going to have to be like a very, very clear barrier in between defensive and offensive champions. Because with this node combination, virtually anything, you know, can work on defense, because they are going to get that armor up, and offensively there's going to be extremely limited options. I will definitely make videos about, you know, the potential MVPs for this meta and stuff like that, and then follow it up as well, because I do think this is extremely restricting. At the same time, you know, it could be interesting to find ways to play around it. So Gladiator Circuit Week 1 meta is basically very similar, where we have more potent power burn and spaced armor. While the defender has active armor up, they are immune to effects of Nullify, Fate Seal, and Stagger. While an armor up buff is active, striking the defender with special lock, striking the defender will special lock the attacker for 6 seconds. Now this sounds even more frustrating, but luckily it's week 1 meta, so, you know, most of the people will not actually get to play against this, especially if you're not in a super big rush to get to Gladiator Circuit. Then when struck, the defender gains a shit in charge. That's the same. Each armor up buff on the defender reduces the duration of debuffs on them by 15%. That just makes it even harder. So this meta at this point looks really, really, really tough. Let's look at week 2 meta. The attacker gains no power from landing or receiving attacks. Instead, they are granted 12% of power bar per second, while the defender is suffering from a damaging debuff. So that's just the polka dot power. And stunning reflection. At the start of the fight, the defender receives a permanent stun shield. While this shield is active, the defender can't be stunned. Every time stun is attempted, the defender is stunned instead for 3 seconds. The shield will go on a cooldown for 8 seconds if the defender is inflicted with either poison or incinerate. While this cooldown is active, attacker gains 40% attack rating. So basically, you can't stun and you can't gain power unless you have dots. And then if you do have incinerate or poison, then you can stun and you get a slight attack increase. So this meta does sound quite interesting. I do quite like this one. Week 3 meta again is quite limiting, and definitely Kabam is pushing Battlegrounds in more of a specialty organization, especially in Gladiator Circuit, where we have Hazard, Shift, Incinerate, and Poison. So striking the defender has a 40% chance to inflict the attacker with an Incinerate debuff, dealing 30% of the defender's attack over 7 seconds. Every 12 seconds, this is swapped to inflict poison instead. When the attacker triggers an immunity, the defender becomes stun immune for 8 seconds. So if you use immune champions, you are going to have to deal with stun immune defenders. And also, they have true focus. Defenders' attacks ignore, evade, and miss. Now, that evade and miss ignoring thing is definitely, I think, there to largely counter Ghost, because by the sound of it, Ghost is just going to be absolute monster here, and Ghost still will be a monster. You just will not be able to rely on the phase mechanic to get easy openings, but she's still going to be capable of dishing out incredible amounts of damage. So week 3, again, fairly unique, I would say. And then week 4, I don't even know what to think of this one. Week 4 is Power Shield, so attackers' basic attacks deal no damage, but still generate power, and their special attacks deal 400% more damage. Each time the defender is struck, they gain a dispersal charge, which reduces all damage taken from hits by 5%. Being struck by a heavy attack removes all charges. So Flux Dispersal is a very frustrating node, and this is going to be all about champions that, you know, gain a lot of power, therefore can benefit fully from Power Shield. And obviously all about champions that are very hard to heavy attack. So, these are the metas. What do we think of them? I do think Kabam is taking this into a new direction. I do think for bigger, more established rosters, these metas can in fact provide very, very, very interesting interactions and interesting time. So that is, you know, something that I personally do look forward. But ultimately, I don't necessarily think that this is the direction we want to take Battlegrounds overall. I don't know. It is definitely going to be an experiment, because I do expect quite a big community pushback. And when you put nodes like Hazard Shift, Incinerate, Poison, then you do risk a large amount of players who would like to play Battlegrounds not being able to do so, just by the nature of fact that they can't piece together a 30 champion competitive deck that can work with these immunities or has ability to deal with those debuffs. So there is good and bad, for sure. Like, one thing that I do look forward, again, on a personal level, for instance, in week 3, seeing absolutely unique decks. Like, many of our staple champions will just not work. You know, there's not going to be Hyperion. There's not going to be... there's not going to be Hercules in these metas. There's not going to be, you know, a ton of different champions that just will not function if they don't have these immunities. At the same time, I do fear or the less developed rosters, because all these metas do, you know, basically give massive advantage to the people with the bigger rosters and bigger accounts. So, again, take it for what you will. These are the nodes. I'm very interested to hear what do you guys think about Kabam adding, you know, hazard shifts and polka dot power, and especially these electric defense nodes. But here we are. So the season is pushed back to January 4th. Gonna get a bit of break from Battlegrounds. And yeah, I will catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the